To Each a Tempo, an Ace Attorney and Elite Beat Agents fanfiction. Chapter 11. And so, the hunt for the chilies began. Barley's workstation had no hidden treasure to offer, unless enough spilled flour to write a name in counted. Maya picked up a bent, greasy recipe card.
Creme caramel. Ooh, that sounds good. We should try making some, Nick.
Please don't borrow any recipes from them.
Phoenix brushed at the stubborn flour smearing his pant leg.
We'd be lucky if all Cherry did was sue.
Oh, you're no fun.
Phoenix couldn't begin to imagine a cook's frame of mind. Never mind where a little package of peppers belonged. He and Maya wandered the storage corridors, tried the doorknob of what seemed to be a tight-locked office, and then braved the big silver door. It was a refrigerator after all, one bigger than Phoenix's bedroom. Not that that was saying much. One naked light bulb dangled from the ceiling, and fans hummed steadily. The cold air was a skin-prickling contrast to the oven's heat. Phoenix folded his arms, examining a rack cluttered with jars. Honey mustard, grainy mustard, Dijon mustard, and nothing that looked like it belonged on a hot dog. No chili peppers either.
Did Barley say what kind of package it was?
Maya looked up from a crate of leafy vegetables.
I don't think so. Just a little package.
She dropped ahead of something healthy-looking and nudged the crate back into place with her foot.
Maybe he meant a box or a plastic bag?
They were currently surrounded by plastic crates and huge, mysterious cardboard boxes, none of which could be described as little. Unless Phoenix was just terrible at identifying condiments, there weren't any chilies here. He rubbed his neck.
Let's try somewhere else.
The next room over smelled dust-dry, and flicking on the lights revealed enough colorful packages and bins to rival a supermarket.
Well, I guess we did want boxes.
Come on, Nick. Let's get cracking. No rest for the hungry.
Hadn't she already eaten half a bakery? Phoenix lifted a plastic bin's lid, and something sand-like stared back at him. Cornmeal, maybe. Definitely not chili peppers. He closed the bin and peered around and behind it, and ended up staring at the scuffed lid for a moment. They were gonna have to talk to Cherry and Barley some more after this errand was done. Unease roiled in him the way it always did when he sat right on top of an important detail. He was getting warmer. Warmer. Boiling hot.
Foxx?
Silence. Except for Maya's sandals clicking along the shelf's lengths.
Here's some pasta, there's some pasta, and some curly little pasta.
She stretched onto tiptoes to peek at a higher shelf.
Noodle pasta, funny pasta, 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 rice!
Phoenix was sure he had heard that tune somewhere before.
Sorry, Phoenix. Went for a latte. What is it?
Hopefully not a carrot juice latte. Phoenix raised a brow, moving on along the bins.
You said the orchard attracts agent attention, right? And Jay noticed a music sense disturbance, and then ran to the alley.
You're thinking that Miss LaFlamme or Mr. Dempster caught his attention? I suppose they could have. The lost target fled through the alleys behind the orchard, so the fence door was presumably unlocked. But Jay would recognize the cooks if they were in distress. He patrols that area on a regular basis.
These buckets were full of cake flour and pastry flour. What the heck was the difference? With a last glance around the bins, Phoenix moved on to the towers of canned tomatoes.
So, there's no evidence of who that target was?
All we know is what Jay... one moment.
Nick!
Maya, crouched by the biggest bag of potatoes Phoenix had ever seen, shot a look at him.
Are you going to talk all day while I search this whole Ooh, what's this?
She rose to her feet with clear plastic glinting in her hand.
You found them?
How long ago did Barley drop those chili peppers?
Phoenix came close enough to see the bag's contents. Black, shriveled, and not food by Phoenix's definition of the word.
He didn't say when he lost them. Are you sure those are chili peppers?
They've got little stems on them. I think.
Maya pressed the cellophane's contents with her thumbs, experimentally, and then held the package out like a freshly dragged-in gift.
Here, Nick. You'd better carry these.
What an honor. Rolling his eyes, Phoenix took the package. Its contents felt leathery, not fossil hard, and he wasn't about to debate which one was worse.
Phoenix!
He stopped. Maya neatly stepped around him and took the lead.
Foxx?
We've got a contact with some new evidence for you in the Orchard's alley. Stop by there as soon as possible, all right?
Alright.
They had another agent to meet with, he could only assume. Phoenix resumed walking, quicker this time to follow Maya's robe fluttering around the corner. Barley Dempster, thankfully, wasn't a difficult man to find. His frantic mumbling voice gave him away as he paced circles in his bakery, fidgeting relentlessly at his hat.
And then the herb shipment came. Put those boxes away. Maybe with the tarragon. No, LaFlamme would have...
Hey, Barley? Are those chili peppers you lost supposed to be old and dried out and ugly?
He jumped and then smiled at the sight of them, brushing nothing in particular off of his cook's jacket.
Oh, it's you. The peppers. They're... Did you?
Barley brightened like Christmas morning as Phoenix held up the little package.
Oh, goodness, thank you. Cherry, she's,
Barley stopped, craning his neck thoughtfully.
I guess they're awfully ugly. The dried things usually are.
So, you cook with these?
We make chili syrup for the Orchard's signature cherry fiesta tarts. They're Chef LaFlamme's most prized recipe. We just need to cook these in sugar syrup for a while. You know, to get the flavor from them. Like tea almost.
Maya shot a grin at Phoenix.
We'll have to try those tarts, too.
Well, if you can get Cherry to give you some free ones, then sure.
But hopefully they'd get more out of Cherry than a free meal.
Hey, Barley, can we bring these chili peppers to Cherry for you?
If you'd like, I think that'd be, it's fine. You don't need to. She probably won't yell much. For her, anyway.
The poor guy must have taken more beatings than a punching bag during his typical workday.
It's no problem. We can do it. I was hoping to ask you some questions anyway.
You should stay here and focus on your baking. It'd be a shame if you burned anything.
Barley's eyes widened, and he scrambled to open an oven.
The baguettes! They're oh dear, they're fine. Oh, perfect timing, actually.
Reaching for a well-loved pair of oven mitts, he smiled meekly.
You're right. I'm needed here. Thank you so much.
It was definitely better to let Barley concentrate on his work. With answers to find and a culinary peace offering, Phoenix and Maya left to face the chef herself. The upstairs kitchen was a slightly different flavor of mayhem than the last they saw it. A mountain of dirty plates had gathered around the dishwasher, and pans lay scattered everywhere. Cherry darted to the stove, stirred her simmering cream mixture, frowned at it like a warning, and returned to aggressively rolling dough.
Miss Chef LaFlamme?
She glanced poisonously at them, flinging a white plume of flour across her rolling pin.
You're still here?
Are these muffin pans?
Maya peered at a stack of pans, probably hoping to find more fresh-baked snacks.
Tart pans, kid.
Maya looked to Phoenix.
What's the difference?
How was he supposed to know? He shrugged.
There must be some important detail that's different about them.
She put a finger thoughtfully to her cheek.
I don't think so, Nick. It's not like we're talking about ladders and step ladders.
If it's frickin' peachy with you people, I'm trying to work here. Fiestas don't make themselves. You've got a hell of a lot of nerve being in here in the first place.
Fiestas. Cherry was in the middle of her signature recipe. Phoenix approached, staying carefully clear of Cherry's piston-like elbows.
Actually, we found these.
He held up the chilies by a cellophane corner.
Barley said he had misplaced them.
She stared at the chilies. She stared at Phoenix. And, eyes closing, Cherry rubbed her forehead with a knuckle and hissed a sigh.
Fine.
She plucked the package from Phoenix's hand and beelined past him to yank a small saucepot from its wall rack.
If you're not leaving until you get your corn-shucking questions answered, go right ahead. What do you want to know?
She glared at Phoenix and Maya in turn, all feline contempt.
Just for the love of Karem, stay out of the way. You.
Me?
Move your keister. Sassafras, the second I need a damn baking sheet, you're gonna get trampled. No, not there either, by the stove. Yeah, right in the corner. That's good.
Maya looked hesitantly around at her new look. It was cramped, grease-splattered, and lacking anything shiny or edible, but she certainly didn't look inclined to move. With a quick flurry of ingredients, including one of the ugly little chilies, Cherry slammed her pot onto a stove burner hard enough to make Maya flinch. Shuffling a step back, wondering what to find out of the way, Phoenix rubbed his neck.
So, Chef LaFlamme, what were you doing yesterday morning around 11 o'clock?
Working, unlike some people. Wait, you said you're accountants?
Lawyers. We're investigating the murder of...
Yeah, close enough. What? Murder?
Cherry snapped upright, glaring cleavers.
You're investigating? What, in my kitchen?
If she let Phoenix get a full sentence out, maybe she would know. He took another step back, eyeing the soup-ruining counter edges and oven surfaces all around him.
It happened near the edge of Foster Park. Someone in this restaurant might have witnessed it.
A long moment passed. Cherry turned back to her work.
Well, I was busy then.
She grabbed a small knife and cut leaf shapes into the dough, her wrist limp deadly as a whip.
A whole busload of tourists showed up. Cut up her nose, they just pull up and take over the whole place, and it is beyond them to leave a tip, I swear. Ran out of the ragu, and then it toast munchin' figures. Every table's full, and I had to turn one of the bridge biddies away, and everyone's ordering the risotto, but Barley's on the dishes, and I've only got 2 hands. Why don't you stick a fork in me?
Wait, bridge biddies?
Oh yeah, bunch of old hens. They go out for lunch and usually take over a whole Bavarian cream-filled restaurant to play cards and fuss over every French fry and detail of every frickin' thing.
Another glare at Phoenix. Odd. He didn't recall running over anyone's pet dog lately.
Have you ever made a coffee with 1 3/4 sweeteners in it? Peas and rice coffee should not involve fractions. What the hell is wrong with people?
Cherry darted to the ovens, plucking a pair of tongs from her apron, to fuss with whatever was baking at the moment. Sparing a thought for the ill-fated soufflés, Phoenix wished hard that he could see into that oven, or maybe past it to keep an eye on Maya. But being out of Cherry's way was much more preferable.
So...
He passed his briefcase to his other hand, shifting on his feet.
Does this bridge group come often?
No.
Cherry holstered the tongs on her apron strings and stormed back to the dough. Phoenix hadn't thought to look earlier. Screeching rage could be a very effective distraction, but Cherry had all sorts of things tucked into the strings circling her waist. There were dangling tongs, a few food-stained rags, a thermometer-looking clip, and that wasn't counting the untold troves in the apron's full-looking pocket. It never hurt to be prepared, Phoenix supposed.
Most of the bridge biddies don't grace my establishment with their whiny blue-haired presence anymore, which is fine, nuts to that, but...
She paused and ran a narrow, considering glance over Phoenix.
Have you heard of this place? Before you saw the flyer?
The orchard? Not really.
But then, Phoenix always seemed to be out of the loop on these things. With a huff, Cherry retrieved a bowl of dark, rich-looking filling from the opposite end of the countertop.
Okay, good. Somebody knows us as something other than the place with terrible service then.
Filling balls formed between her fingers, with dough leaves pinched into place around them, in a way that Cherry had obviously done thousands of times before, as she glared wistfully into space.
This is a tough industry, you know. It's not just throwing mozzarella sticks in a deep fryer and calling it a day, but it'd cream whip and kill people to understand that.
Something tingled at the back of Phoenix's mind. The tight-wound spite in Cherry's voice, and the thought of an old woman turned away from the restaurant. There was more to this story. He slipped a hand into his pocket, fingertips finding the crystal-smooth magatama.
So you're worried about your bistro's reputation?
That dimension of color and sound revealed itself, soaking Phoenix in so he could hear a fine, echoing tune. Cherry wore heavy chains and a quartet of cyclocks. They rattled as her head snapped toward him to glare, and rattled again as she set a half-formed tart down.
Well, chicken fried amazing. You must be some kind of genius to figure that out. Yes, I'm worried about this place.
It's very deep, Mr. Nick.
A sudden memory of robes brushing his knee, of Little Pearl worrying her thumbnail between her teeth. He hummed inside, like nerves and goose flesh. With this much blazing anger and this many coils of chain and lock, Cherry would fight him for every inch, and he didn't want to remember how agonizing that could be.
I think...
His thoughts scanned frantic through everything he carried, every paper and trinket.
There's a particular person you're worried about.
She tightened, bristling red. One lock shivered.
Yeah, smart guy.
But who was it? The melody shifted, warbled counterpoint to a low humming beat, and Phoenix held Cherry's glare.
It's someone you need to worry for every day, and during every shift.
No one customer could be that important, could they? Who else would loom in a mind as stress-filled as Cherry's? It was someone in her very kitchen. Phoenix had two choices, and with an impulse hot coin flip, he decided.
It's you.
A twitch ran through her aura. Her eyes narrowed slow.
Yeah, I worry for myself and my business, obviously, of all the pudding-brained.
The lock's shiver was fading away, this chance disappearing. Panic spurred Phoenix onwards.
And Barley, he looks up to you. He's followed you for years. You must want to protect him.
No change in Cherry's glare. A swirl of velvet soft feeling was gone as soon as it appeared. The lock fell still.
You don't have a macadamia-crusted clue what you're talking about. Mind your own damn business.
It always took a moment for the acid blaze of failure to fade, for Phoenix's mind to gather and his breath to unhitch. When it was over, he stared hard at Cherry's carved scowl and dough-plying hands. The Magatama's low beat stirred and changed. He had a handful of fragments and just needed one that fit in here.
Mr. Nuki, you need courage to know when to stop.
So much worry in Pearl's imprinted voice. Phoenix reconsidered in the razor's edge of focus that the Magatama brought, but nothing fit. He didn't know who Cherry really was. He had no cracks to pry at. He sighed and let the colors slide away. Focusing so hard left a mark in him, Flute's notes imprint in sand, in a silence like the ones after Mia spoke.
We can always try again. Now just isn't the time.
He sighed and nodded. Phoenix released the Magatama, watching the world return to 3 dimensions of plane. He stood alone between a towering stove and sauce-streaked counters, and Cherry was selecting a rubber band from the collection around her waist.
Everybody and their dish boys gotta have an opinion.
She slid the tray of tarts aside, rolling up and binding some bags of colorful spices.
Think you can just show up once and jump to conclusions? Creme and glaze, what a...
She froze.
Creme and glaze.
She bolted towards the stove.
Filet of sole and frickin' papio with Holland... Oh.
Phoenix sidled out of his safe corner. There stood Maya in front of the stove, stirring the pot of cream mixture. Why hadn't she learned not to touch things?
It was bubbling, so I thought I should stir it. Is that okay?
The pause lasted forever. Then Cherry took the whisk from Maya's hand and prodded the cream.
It's okay.
Cherry slumped. She lifted her cap and resettled it over her braids like summoning new strength.
Creme and glaze clumps like hell if you don't stir it. It's good, kid.
Muttered praise had to be worth its weight in gold coming from someone like Cherry. She carried off the salvaged mixture, stiff with energy once more.
Creme angles?
Maya followed puppishly, willing a chance to kick.
What are you going to use that for?
Creme and glaze. Pay attention, crepes. Goes with the fiestas, gives a sweet, creamy counterpoint to the cherries. Use Maydukes for a nice little sour kick at the end. Now the real trick is using the right amount of syrup. Mulatto chilies taste like a tea steep in ashtray if you go overboard.
Hardly any of the food words snapped harsh, and the knot between Cherry's shoulders slowly eased. It was amazing, sometimes, to watch Maya win people over like springtime sun melting ice. With a glance around him for suit-hazardous surfaces, Phoenix headed for the stairs. He had an idea.
I really can't thank you enough, Mr. Wright.
A dozen baguettes set on Barley's countertop, golden brown and powerfully fragrant. Barley himself perched against the counter's edge, probably as relaxed as he could physically manage. He fidgeted at his cap and smiled apologetically at Phoenix.
Those chilies. Goodness, that would have been 2 weeks in the mail if we had to order new ones. And I'm not very good at looking for lost things.
It wasn't a problem, Barley. Now about Chef LaFlamme.
Phoenix rubbed his chin. How to begin?
She uses only the best ingredients?
Oh yes, she's very particular. Food is only as good as the ingredients you start with. That's what she tells me. Insist on the best and never settle. So I try.
His smile turned wan. his gaze wandering off in thought. Phoenix had hoped for more information than that. Maybe if he asked about some other...
This bistro is going to be great someday. Cherry... well, she has plans. Really wonderful things.
His hands lifted, like he could paint the picture.
5-star dining, dark wood furniture, maybe some nice mahogany and table service on carts, mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice, a live band playing soft jazz music. You should hear her talk about it all.
So she has big dreams also.
And she had a daily reality to deal with before she could get there. Everyone felt like that sometimes. Barley nodded, smiling again, and his gaze fell to the floor. A hunch Phoenix couldn't name pulled at him. It ran in his blood until he palmed the Magatama. Darkness and melody swirled in around them. Chains clanked, and Barley had a psych lock. One ruby lock over his heart.
And you want to help her with those dreams too, right?
Clicking in the lock, and a tremor through Barley's chains. Echo ran through his notes, drumbeat rising from deep, warm earth. Phoenix couldn't remember noticing anything like that before. He was usually too focused on the grating of a jimming lock to notice tunes much.
I do. I want to help her, and that's all I can say right now. Until I'm sure.
Until Barley was sure of what? There had to be a wedge to drive in, maybe some piece of evidence. Maybe Barley had seen something.
I think you know something about the Foster Park murder. Barley, did you see anything unusual yesterday morning?
Shock washed orange from him, widening his eyes, sending his hands flying up to adjust his cap.
Oh dear, no. I know. That's serious. I wouldn't.
Barley paused, eyes darting everywhere.
I cut me a poil until service began. Mostly onions and celery for the fish fillet. And then I was on dishes for the rush. Oh, but I played some desserts for Cherry, for LaFlamme, even though she's much better at it. It was just a few portions of millefeuille, and then I was back on dishes until 2 o'clock, maybe 3. I'm sorry, I should have checked the time, but I can testify if you need me to.
It all matched with Cherry's story, and the psych lock hadn't budged. Phoenix rubbed his chin.
So you didn't see anything unusual yesterday. What was Cherry doing?
Regret washed over Barley. Water chill.
She was very busy with the customers and the food, and I was focusing on the dishes I had to do. LaFlamme hates the spots in the glassware. I'm sorry, I wasn't watching her much, except when she yelled at me for more coffee or something. I should have been paying more attention.
His chains lay perfectly still, and sincerity beamed bright from him. Barley stammered over his nerves, but he was telling the truth.
He's protecting her honor.
That was one way to look at it. But Phoenix had to be sure. He gripped the Magatama tighter, listened hard to where the ethereal tune blurred and echoed to nothing.
You're really focused on Cherry, aren't you?
That turned tumbles in Barley's lock. His tune keened, and he nodded.
But I told you, I can't talk about it yet.
You're breaking into his heart and soul, Mr. Nick. Do you need to do that?
If the secret was what Phoenix guessed it was, then no. It didn't matter how Barley felt. He hadn't seen a thing that would help the case. Phoenix sighed.
It's alright. I understand.
He released the Magatama, the darkness and music whispering away. Barley sighed relief as his bakery faded back into being.
Oh, you can be really intense sometimes, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry, I really do want to help you. And Cherry, I guess she doesn't want to talk to you, does she? She does that. A lot, actually.
He wiped his palms on his apron, glancing about.
Maybe her side towels will help.
The side towels?
Barley produced a rag. It was damp, tattered, and stain-streaked, hidden in his apron for good reason.
These things, they're a very important part of the uniform. They're pot holders, washcloths, everything. No good chef is caught without them.
He noticed the sad state of his towel and stuffed it back into his apron, rubbing at his cap.
Goodness, I'm not very good at taking care of mine, but LaFlamme, she changes hers like clockwork.
Barley hopped to a quick walking pace, headed for the corridor, motioning for Phoenix to follow.
I don't know what LaFlamme was doing yesterday.
He fished out a ring with 2 keys on it from his apron pocket.
But her side towels, if she used them for everything she did in the restaurant, then they'd tell a story, right? They'd show her what she was doing.
Why was he asking Phoenix? But it did make enough sense. Cherry's tools of the trade could be evidence of any food she came into contact with, or hadn't come into contact with. They arrived at the locked door Phoenix and Maya had noticed before. Barley glanced warily behind, produced a small set of keys, and unlocked the office with shaking hands, before vanishing behind the door. Phoenix followed him in. A worn couch and a rack full of clothes took up most of the space, forcing a corner desk, a metal kitchen chair, and a stack of paperwork to huddle in the corner. Maybe Cherry ate, breathed, and slept her business enough to live in it, too.
Here we go.
Phoenix turned to find Barley examining a handful of side rags, each one tie-dyed with stains.
Here are Tuesday's morning side towels. She always has a wet towel for spills and sticky things and cleaning, and a dry towel for handling pans out of the oven, and a customer towel for the front. That one has to be clean, so it looks good when she's wiping down a table. Let's see. Red pepper coulis. She made that yesterday, right before the rush. And the grease, this. Oh, the beef bones from last night's stock. So this must be her customer towel. But maybe this has coffee on it.
Cherry worked at a furious pace. Figuring out her story from some smudged cleaning rags would be a jigsaw puzzle, but better than nothing.
Would it be alright if I took all 3?
Yes, please do.
Barley pressed the towels into Phoenix's grasp. They were still faintly damp from who knew what, and wrung his hands together.
I don't think she'll notice a few things missing. I hope Cherry wouldn't do anything, but she might have told me if... please don't. What I mean is, don't blame her, Mr. Wright.
Stuffing the towels into his briefcase, remembering heavy chains and a trapped animal glare, Phoenix said nothing. It wasn't a promise he could make. To Each a Tempo was written by Pyrasaur. Ace Attorney and Elite Beat agents are owned by Capcom and Inis, respectively. The narrator for this story is Genndy the C.O.G. The voice of Phoenix Wright is Lastni. The voice of Maya Fey is Miki. The voice of Pearl Fey is RoseOfSweetness. The voice of Agent Foxx is Galen Skibyak. The voice of Cherry LaFlamme is Katie Hiatt. The voice of Barley Dempster is Ronson Harrington. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.